Okay, apologies in advance. I am doing this completely unscripted, so if I'm all over the place, that's just me. So I've done a couple of laps here. I'm going to show you my second lap, not my first lap out of the pits. Once the tyres are kind of warmed up, I'm really just driving this as I would do so if I'm trying to preserve tyres in a stint. So this is not the fastest lap I could do. There's probably half a second, 3/4 of a second I could find on this. But what I'm really trying to do here is just preserve the tyres, keep them from overheating, and really try and get a full stint through without wearing my tyres too much. So I've done an out lap at 2:21, and then this is a 2:19.5. So I've done 3 laps, including the out lap here already. Track conditions, I'll put these in a post as well, but this is what I'm using here. So 21 degrees Celsius air temperature, 27 degrees Celsius track temperature, so that's what 100 Celsius on the 100 Fahrenheit, and then wind and humidity, all that good stuff as well, and 50% usage. Obviously, as the track rubbers up over the course of the race, the wear on the tires is going to reduce dramatically as well. So the track's probably a little bit under rubbered compared to where it would be after an hour 50 minutes in the race, but I think it's a good place to start. So let's watch the lap and then I'll break it down. I've got my pedals and steering trace here as well if you want to watch that as we go through too. And I know I'm using the BMW here, not the Porsche, so obviously that's going to make a difference as well. But I think many of the fundamental principles here are going to be the same. Thrilling stuff. So let's break the lap down and have a look at it now. A lot of these reference points are going to be dependent on your FOV as well. So again, your mileage may vary on this one. So coming up to start across start finish line into turn one. There's this little gap in the fence here, little red bit. I think it's like a photography bit for media, something like that. I'm using that basically as a reference when my pillar here, my A-frame, is obscuring this from view. That's when I'm starting to brake, just about now. So okay, so I'm braking ever so slightly before, but again, this is about backing the corner up to make sure I'm not putting too much pressure on the tires earlier on. So as the stint goes on, you're going to be able to push your braking zone a little bit here, but this is a really good marker to work from. As the track starts to rubber up, there's going to be a much darker band of rubber here as well, so you can use that as a reference too. But this is a good place to start. If you're braking slightly before, I think that's a good place to start too. But this is a good place to work your braking zone around here for turn one. Try not to carry too much brake into the actual turn-in as well. You don't want to put too much pressure on the front tyres. Obviously, the Porsche is going to have a lot more rotation than the BMW would do, depending on your brake balance, so you might want to try and trail a little bit more brake in here, try and get the rotation into the apex, but you don't want to work the front tyres too much here because you're going to be using quite a lot of steering angle going in. So I am using quite a lot of steering angle here. This is one of the very few corners on the circuit I will actually turn the wheel past 90 degrees. Given it's quite a slow speed corner, that's not a huge issue here. Obviously just make sure the wall on the right hand side, don't want to be hitting that. And just be careful on the power as well as you come out of the corner. I know the Porsche is particularly good on traction, so probably not going to be an issue for you guys quite so much. In the BMW, the rears can get really, really hot quite quickly. So I am using the highest traction control setting that the BMW offers. And I am also quite progressive on the throttle, especially if the track temperature is pretty high. But yeah, I think in the Porsche that's probably not going to be as much of a concern. So coming up to Eau Rouge Rodillion, you might want to do a little bit of a lift through the second part here. I did on my first lap. It does cost you time going down Kemmel, but what it does enable you to do is not put as much pressure on the front left tyre, because I noticed that a few of you are having wear issues on the left front, which is the tyre that does suffer the most around this track. So in the first few laps of the stint, I think what you should really be looking to do is just try and ease the tyres in really, really gradually. Don't go all out on your first couple of laps. It means that you're not going to have your fastest lap time's not going to be as quick, maybe half a second or so, but it's going to extend the life of the tyres through the stint. You're going to be quicker later on. So you may want to think about having a little bit of a lift here, maybe give it a try just to preserve that left front tire a little bit. I don't lift here after a couple of laps. I think by this point I've got, okay, I can't remember how much fuel I've got in the car here, but after 3 laps we're probably talking 96, 97 litres, so just under 22 gallons, I think it would be, something like that. But yeah, you might want to consider just easing through Eau Rouge Rodillion a little bit just to preserve the tyres, but it is going to cost you time through Kemmel Straight, so you might just need to make a judgment call there as to whether that's a good idea or not. But I stay flat through here this time, just to get the lap time. And again, just trying to keep the steering angle as minimal as possible here. I mean, that's what, 30 degrees? Something like that, 35 degrees. I'm just really trying to let the car run out. Just putting my front left wheels over the white curb here. You don't get an off track or a slowdown for that. The dirty air when you're following other cars can give you slowdowns here, so just be careful of that. Just because you're getting pushed wide. And if you need help on this bit, then I can't help you, I'm sorry. Coming up to the end of Kemmel Straight, I'm basically using the curb here as a brake marker. If you want to save fuel, I'm going to try and get to 26 laps on fuel in the BMW. I'm actually lifting off at 200 meters and braking quite a bit later here. But if you're doing a normal lap, then I'm braking right as this gets obscured, just there. And again, you can brake a little bit later than that if you want to. But again, in the spirit of saving tyres, backing up the corner, slowing fast out, maybe braking just a little bit before this line here. Again, your field of it, your FOV is probably going to define your exact braking marker here. But using this curb and this line here as a marker, I think is a really good thing to do. And you can put a couple of tyres on the outside here as well, just to open the corner up too. There's no problem doing that. Not like Pouton, which we'll be getting to in a bit. And again, I'm not really going beyond 90 degree steering angle here. I'm using this white curb on the right hand side. I don't actually know if that's any grippier or not than the standard white and red curb here. But again, you'll see how little steering angle I'm actually using. I'm not overturning the wheel. I'm driving the car on the left front here, just trying to preserve that a little bit. And then I really underdrive this right-hander here. I'm trying to keep the car to the left-hand side to open up the next turn. You can go faster through this. It's just going to compromise the next set of turns. So as you're going through here, I wouldn't be going more than about half throttle, and just keep the car over to the left-hand side as much as you can. Don't really want to touch this curb here because it can spin you. I've done that to me a couple of times. And again here, I'm underdriving this slightly. This is a deceptive corner in terms of tyre wear. You can really push this corner. It can really harm your left front tyre. So again, in the spirit of trying to preserve the tyres, back this corner up. Just don't go full beans through it, basically. Try and think about how much pressure you're putting on the left front. And then you can run pretty wide out here as well. You can basically get a wheel on the sand here and you don't get an off track. So just try and keep your steering angles open as possible. Again, you can see here I'm not using any more than about 40 degrees. Just try and keep the wheel as open as possible. Run the car out as wide as you can. I've also just thought I really hope this is recording, otherwise I'm talking to myself. You can have a little bit of a lift here if you want at the 100-meter mark. Saves a very small amount of fuel. But again, I'm going to be using this curb here on the left-hand side as my brake marker. Initially braking quite hard. I'm never actually braking to 100% at any point throughout the lap. I know the ABS model has changed since season 1. Was it season 1 this season? This year? So that you can hammer the ABS, but it's still better to not do that because it does mean that it's compromising your steering. So I'm never braking more than about 90%, and then I'm starting to ease off to get the trail braking and the rotation in. So you see, to be fair, I could be braking more here. You could be braking right into the apex here before getting back on the power. So there's more time to be gained here. This is not my strongest corner on the circuit. I mean, not that any corners are particularly strong for me, but you can really gain some time here with some good trail braking and rotation. So have a think about your brake bias here and what you can actually do to get the rear rotated around. But again, just look at my steering angle here. I'm just about 90%, 90 degrees. And then I'm getting back on the power, nice and progressively. I could use more of the track width here as well, but again, you want to get the car pulled over to the right-hand side for turn 9, so it's a compromise once again. But if you're not using too much steering angle here, not trying to carry too much speed to the apex, it's easy enough to get the car pulled over. This is quite an easy corner to lose time on. You don't want to brake too hard here. You want to carry quite a lot of speed. This is one of these corners actually where fast in works better than slow in, so that you can keep your minimum apex speed up and get on the power quite early. It is an on-camber corner, so you can carry more speed through here than you want to. Also, as a side note, every time I see this, I think it's an elephant. I don't know why, but as I come around this corner here, I keep seeing this and think it's an elephant. I don't know why. Please don't ask me why. I've driven too many laps in practice here to think about anything else now. But it kind of looks like an elephant. Like, that's its front and back leg. It just needs a little trunk here. But anyway, that's beside the point. So I'm braking just as my wheels touch the curb here, and just a little bit of brake. That's what, 25% maximum, and it's just enough to get the car pulled in, and I'm back on the power pretty early on. As you can see here, I could probably brake a little bit later here and get myself a few tenths, but this works for me. The VRS set, I think, is actually starting to brake about here, which is pretty crazy, and he's getting on the power even earlier than I am. So this is a corner that you can actually gain a lot of time on, and I'm keeping the car really pulled far over to the left hand side here again. Basically keeping my right fronts just at the white line here. Any further over than that, you will get an off track. I've had a couple of off tracks here myself, but you can straddle this curb quite a lot. And again, just run the car out to the right hand side. You can get pretty far out here. I mean, I've got all 4 wheels off the track here. I think as long as you've got at least 2 wheels on this curb, you're absolutely fine. So you can run the car pretty wide here. And then move on. Everyone's favorite curb on the right hand side. I stay away from this curb like the death. This little dip here, if I put 2 wheels in it, I'm basically gone. So if we have a look at this from chase, I'm actually a little bit closer to there than I thought I would be, but yeah, I leave a huge margin here because this curb absolutely terrifies me, and I will be staying well away from it during the 24 hours. You can get two wheels right over on the right hand side here. It's this little dip that causes the tire to have the contact patch, a significantly less contact patch, and that's what puts you on the wall. So yeah, you can be really far over here, or you can be really far over to the left hand side. I choose the latter because I'm an absolute wimp. But a lot of drivers I've seen so far in practice have been really far over to the right hand side here. It does open up the corner more. I just think it's a bit riskier. There's my cockpit. So I'm braking. Difficult to give an actual braking market here. Again, I think you could probably use this red photography thingy-majig on the right hand side here. I'm not using anything specifically. I'm just kind of judging it by my speed. There's also a couple of skid marks. That's maybe not the best term to use, but there's some rubber laid down on the track here that you can use as a brake marker as well. So just have a think about how you're going to brake here, but this is probably a good thing to judge your braking on. And again, Pouhon's one of these corners where I really back it up. This is the highest energy circuit on the court, the highest energy corner on the circuit for the right front. So I'm really slow through the first part of the apex. A lot of cars I saw, especially during the IMSA race yesterday, were much quicker through the first part, but then they're drifting wide. And especially during the latter part of the race, I was gaining a lot of time from them because their right front had really overheated and they'd lost the grip because it was outside of its optimal window. So I think it's best to really back up the first part of Pouhon here and actually keep the car fairly pinned to the left-hand side. Again, look how much steering angle I'm using. Really not too much here at all. I'm really just trying to think about this right front tire here. How much pressure am I putting through it? When I made that suggestion yesterday of turning up the tire sound and turning everything down, this is one of these corners that really pays dividends. Don't overdrive the first part of Pouhon. Whichever way you wanna drive it is up to you. But if you compromise the first part, it's gonna save you time further down the next part of the straight, and it's also gonna save you time later on in the stint as well. Easy to push this when you've got the grip on the tires, but if you just think about the rest of your stint, it's gonna pay dividends and it's gonna reduce your tire wear as well. As you can see here, I'm only getting on full power about here. So I'm basically already past the apex and I'm really progressively putting the power back on here. I'm going to be braking just at this this strut here. I think that's where I brake. Just after it. Again, this is a very easy corner to slide on. It's a corner I've never really managed to sort out properly. I think this is probably a good place to actually judge your braking from. Easier probably just to have a very hard initial brake and then trail off and just try and get a bit more rotation in. But this is one of these corners here I actually find it quite easy to start sliding and to overheat your tires. So again, a corner where the entry is probably better to back it up and then just try and gain more time through the exit. Again, see quite a lot of trail braking in here initially, just to pull the car over to the right hand side. And then I've got a little bit of power on here just to keep the car balanced and just to keep up the minimum apex speed. But again, I'm going to be keeping the car over to the right hand side here so that the left hand turn, I'm going to be getting a better angle on. And again, look at the steering angle. Not too much at all. That's 90 degrees maximum, isn't it? Or thereabouts. And you can take this white curb on both the left and the right hander as well, so it doesn't seem to give away too much in terms of grip. And again, opening the steering wheel quite early as well, letting the car run out to the right hand side, it's just going to save on the tire wear too, and the temperature. You can run out reasonably wide here. I think you could probably get 2 wheels on the curb, but again, just in the interests of saving an off track, I just keep it a little bit further to the left. And I'm braking just before the red and white curb here. You can brake on this curb and you can get really far over to the left hand side here to open up the corner. I just haven't had the confidence yet to do that. So there's more time to be gained here for sure. But again, this is one of these corners where you can start to slide quite easily if you brake too late and run wide on the exit. So again, I'm using a little bit of the white curbing here on the right hand side, and then I'm just going to run the car nice and wide. Keep that steering angle as open as possible here. And again, you can run pretty wide here. You can basically have 2 wheels on the gravel here and you don't get an off track. So this is an interesting corner. You can take this flat. I don't take it flat, just in the interest of saving my left front. Especially in the first part of the stint when you've got high fuel load, it's quite easy to get more tire temperature, more wear here than you would normally like. So I've actually got a little bit of a lift here. I've actually lifted to half throttle here sometimes just to save the tires, especially when the track temperature is higher than what it is here at the moment. So have a play around with it, but again, this is one of these corners where it's actually better to give up a bit of time and save the tires for later in the stint, and just accept the time loss. You're only going to lose about a tenth, 2/10 here by lifting off a little bit. But again, just a little bit of a lift, and then I just let the car really run out to the right-hand side here, get 2 wheels on the curb on the left-hand side, and again, just keep the angle of the corner open as much as possible. And then Blanchimont, difficult in the Porsche, I know. When I was doing some testing here before we agreed on the BMW, I crashed here an awful lot. That's going to depend upon your setup, but I think compromising the apex speed here a little bit is going to help the right front as well. So I actually do a little lift right before the corner. I don't half throttle through the corner at all because we've got quite an unlocked diff. If I'm lifting off through the corner or at half throttle, the rear does tend to step out. So this is based upon our individual setup here, but I just think compromising Blanchimont a little bit, especially earlier on in the stint, is going to help the right front as well. So this is going to depend entirely on the Porsche and the setup that you've got, of course, but I do suggest having a little bit of a lower underdriving Blanchimont just a little bit to save the right front. And then final corner, not much to say here. I'm braking just after the white line here. Just about there. And again, going up to about 85-90% brake pressure. Again, you can go to 100% here, but it does just compromise your turn in. So I think it's better off to stick just to 90%. Touch the curb on the left-hand side here, just opens up the first part. And keep it fairly over to the right-hand side as well, just gives you a better exit and a run through the first corner. So again, as with the first corner, 2 of the slowest corners on the circuit, your steering angle could be quite far over here. It's not going to take too much out of the tyres. And that was my 2:19.5. So after 3 laps at those track temperatures and driving similar to that, that was my tread remaining. So you're looking at just over 1%. Call it 2%. That's probably low 95s there per lap. So you're probably looking at 50% wear after a full 25 lap stint. So yeah, you just need to work on the steering angle. Try and really think about backing up the corner entry, focusing on the exit, and just keeping your steering angle as minimal as possible.